In order to maintain social distancing and other health protocols at public gatherings, a limited number of staff and community members will be in person attendees at this evening's regular board meeting. The following board members are in attendance: Tracy Miller, Allison Lasan, Angie Cox, Christy Hassett, Jenny Prosnick, and Catherine Sells. We will now convene into closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551, specifically 551.071, 072, 074, and 076. The time is now 6:02 p.m.
choose some other people out of like Delta, but I don't have a place to like put them. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably the best. When she said that, I actually was like, okay, good. That's one less thing I had to. Down on my agenda. I mean, I know John, but
We will now reconvene into open session, and the time is 7:16 p.m. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
Of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Welcome to all. The Lewisville ISD Board of Trustees meets monthly to receive reports from staff and take action on recommendations from the superintendent. The board receives the agenda and all supporting documentation 10 days in advance of these regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions. In addition, the board also meets in regularly scheduled workshops and work sessions where staff discussions and presentations are given for many of the agenda items. This protocol means lengthy discussion or a litany of questions on every agenda item often is not necessary. And as a board, we should have appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of our meeting tonight. To consider action on items discussed in closed session, would someone like to make a motion? Ms. Prosnick, thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Hassett, thank you. Is there any discussion?
You want me to make the motion?
Yes, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Go ahead.
I move that the board approve all personnel recommendations as presented by administration.
Thank you, Ms. Prosnick. Seconded by Ms. Hassett. No questions or anything? We will take a vote. All in favor, you can say aye or raise your hand. Motion carries 6-0. General District Update, Dr. Rogers on COVID.
Thank you, Ms. Sells, Board. One of these days I look forward to not having to give a COVID-19 update, but anyway, here we go. Of course, it was great last Tuesday to see many of our students return in person, and I just want to express my appreciation to the folks in this room and members of the leadership team. We've been visiting schools for the past few days and really just see a lot of great work by our staff, and couldn't be more proud. Athletics, who would have ever thought that you'd have to plan how to limit those that could attend a football game on Friday nights in the state of Texas, but Mr. Kaj and Coach Ford and a lot of other folks, Amanda Drinkwater, has spent a lot of time trying to figure out, how we're going to do that. We're blocking off every other row in our stadiums, which automatically cuts the attendance into half, and then when you try to socially distance 400 kids and band and all that, it certainly provides some limitations, but we appreciate the parents' patience as we work through this. We appreciate the coaches and sponsors. Communications done a great job trying to get the word out to our season ticket holders and to our parents of football team, band, drill teams, cheerleaders, those folks. One of the big questions, I think, is to quarantine or not. I'm really proud of the work that we've done as far as creating a COVID call center. And we have hired, I believe, 6 retired nurses and then 4 retired administrators, and that's all they do is take calls from parents and or staff regarding what should they do, if they were exposed, if they've tested positive, and it's a massive undertaking. You just really wouldn't think about it until you sort of remind yourself, hey, there's 50,000 students and 6,500 employees, and you have to work through these things. One of the things that, of course, the nurses help with the medical side, which makes sense, and then the administrators help the campus administrator with close contact tracking Then we have to certainly work through the Denton County Health Department regarding notices. The COVID call center administrators help make sure of different types of letters. You know, one, as you've seen aboard, some examples notifying the entire campus that there is a lab confirmed case. We also, of course, send a different type of letter out where if a student has been exposed, then it would be, of course, a smaller pool of students that might get that, or parents that would get that based on their exposure after close contact tracking. And then, as I mentioned in a board letter, we actually have two tracking systems that we're trying to marry into one. One is with Denton County Public Health Department, and that is an optional system, but you know, we certainly want to participate in that. And then one is a TEA mandated system where we are having to report COVID cases. And so actually our first district-wide system was supposed to go live, I think, today at 5, because that's when we're going to make our initial report to both TEA and to Denton County. And so we're not going to update that every day. We're going to update it weekly on Mondays. And so anyway, really proud of all the work that it's taken with Dr. Fitzhugh, Kathy Bray, Melanie Vincelette, Mr. Kaj, and just a lot of effort to try to keep track of all this information. Just a couple of just quick FYIs that aren't on this sheet. Really proud of the work of ABM, our custodial group. They've been using those electrostatic machines. Every classroom's being electrostatically cleaned every day. Every playground at elementary schools being electrostatically cleaned every day. And so I greatly appreciate that. And then while we might have had a reduced number of students riding buses, I don't know if you noticed, Board, but I certainly did. Our new contracted company, Texas Central Bus, has done an excellent job. They had more people on hand taking calls as far as concerns, and it was really an excellent start of school by our transportation company. We currently are running 229 bus routes, which is actually 6 less than what we have, which is good that they continue to look on how we can consolidate and save money, which is always a positive. So we just would like to remind parents that we really need their help to help us so we can help you, and part of that is the COVID call center and the COVID-19 tracking system. But you know, we really need parents to please closely monitor their children before they send them to school. And we've had certainly numerous situations where that hasn't happened, even this year in the first 5 days of return to in-person. We just ask that parents keep their children home if they don't feel well. And I know that goes, you know, a little counterintuitive to, in the past we used to just sort of, hey, suck it up, you're going to school type deal. But we really need kids, if they're not feeling well, to stay home. And this is just more important than ever. So give you an example, there was, Jeff was telling me the situation, there was a high school student that didn't feel well over Labor Day weekend, but he came to school and sure enough, you know, test positive, and so exposed a lot of other kids, and you know, just create some issues with us. Since September 2nd, our group has our call center group has logged 291 cases, and that's just taking those phone calls, and that doesn't count today. I know they had, I think, 80 first thing this morning, so it was a busy day. Out of those 291 cases that have been logged since September 2nd, 230 were last week, in the 4 days last week, which makes sense. And out of those 230, there were 23 positive lab confirmed cases. So 3 of those were adults and 20 were students. And so that's the kind of data that we'll continue to share with our community and the board as we move forward. I know there's a lot of questions about masks, and that's probably the most common question we get as a board or as administration, and we actually discussed it even a little more today, this morning at leadership team. But masks have been proven, and you see the downturn even across our country, and particularly in Denton County, which of course is more of an interest to me. There's a downturn in the number of cases, and the experts who we're going to continue to depend on say it's really based on people wearing masks, and it's the safest way to prevent the spread of COVID-19. And so, we discussed this morning. We actually began the discussion before this morning about should there be mandated mask breaks for kids. We absolutely understand. No kid, and certainly a parent, all of us as parents would not want a kid to sit there with a mask on 6 hours straight. We get that. None of us want. And so we are implementing, hourly mandatory mask breaks. And so we'll talk to the principals tomorrow about that. One of the questions that comes up is, should kids have to wear masks while they're out on the playground or whatever? And the answer is no. And so we'll once again provide clarification on that. We think we have, but it never hurts to reinforce it. But at the same time, we're going to expect our students to wear masks, and really that's about that.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers.
Oh, I'm not done.
Oh, you're
I
not
was
done.
just talking about masks. It's about that with masks. I'm about tired of answering questions about masks, because I know some of us are, but I get it. Technology, from August 19th to September 4th, so before, from the first start of school with, either remote learning or virtual learning pathway, you can see the data. I mean, the number of meetings, the number of video meetings, meeting minutes. I mean, our staff, our students, our technology department have just done an amazing job. We're really grateful that our technology department was able to, with the support of our board, to upgrade our bandwidth and double that. And we also were able to secure some additional help desk help. Our folks have just been stretched to the limit. And so, Mr. Colbeck did a great job finding a third party that could help us provide some support to our parents and students, which of course means less wait time and more, better support. So I appreciate that. The board heard this in a discussion last Tuesday regarding synchronous and asynchronous. I just felt like this was an opportunity for us to put this out for parents too, and folks. There's two options: synchronous and asynchronous. Both these are the definitions from TEA. Synchronous requires all participants to be present at the same time virtually, and those students are not logged in if they're not logged in at a specific time, then they would be marked absent, just like asynchronous does not require all students to be present at the same time. So in our opinion, it allows a greater schedule flexibility and still allows for some live interaction, synchronous time with the teacher. Synchronous is defined as a two-way, real-time live instruction between teachers and students, and of course, as the board knows, asynchronous is defined as curricular experience where students engage in learning on their own time, interacting with the teacher intermittently, which most of us prior to COVID-19, that's what we would think of as virtual learning. It's not. Some kids like to work ahead, some kids wait till the last second and everything in between. And then really one of the bigger deals for us, and as Dr. Rapp reported last week, is K through 2 students were not eligible for synchronous learning, which was a big deal for us as we were looking at options in our task force. And of course it is eligible for pre-K through 12, asynchronous is. And then just to put on everyone's radar, there are some upcoming surveys that will go out this week. The first one is the second 9 weeks commitment form. That's the form where parents, if they want to change their current pathway, they would need to notify us, and that has to be done outside of 2 weeks before the end of the 9 weeks. The end of the 9 weeks is October 16th, and so that would happen the week of October 2nd. There's also in 2 surveys going out to our virtual families and our virtual staff, and we had a lot of discussion about whether or not to do this, but we want to be transparent with our folks. We want to seek their input, and so we've created, when I say we, Ms. Brim, Dr. Rapp, and some other great folks, created a survey that will go out this week to our virtual parents and to our virtual staff, just to where we can see and get a better picture of where we're at. Has the system gotten better? What other issues are there still out there? So on. And so I really applaud the really the effort for us to really put ourselves out there. I mean, it'd be easy to hide behind, hey, we think everything's going okay, but I'm grateful for our staff for really wanting to reach out and to seek input and be transparent. And so this was just a lot of great pictures, and we greatly appreciate the support, and it's just great, once again, to see kids in classrooms, and yet we know that half of our students are experiencing virtual pathway, and we want to do everything we can to serve them. And, it's really a big unknown to us as far as what's going to happen towards the end of this 9 weeks. We have no idea the amount of work that may come in once again, a very short turnaround period. How many people are going to change from virtual to in-person or vice versa? And so, our staff, once again, will be asked to do just a monumental amount of work in a very short period of time. But that's the roller coaster that we live in with COVID-19. So with that, I'll certainly try to answer any questions you might have. If not, I'll punt it to someone a whole lot smarter than me.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I have some, but if you all cover them, I'll skip mine. Go ahead.
I just have 2 questions. One, thank you, Dr. Rogers. I appreciate that you do this report every month. I think it's very beneficial for the board, but also to the community as well. So my 2 questions are, a couple parents have asked me about bringing their own hand sanitizer to school, and the answer or response was no, because the district had a higher grade, but yet the parents wanted to bring, have their students' own hand sanitizer.
Yeah, that's something I just have to defer to Ms. Vincelette and Mr. Koch. So we'll get you an answer. I don't
Clarification on
Yeah,
that.
I don't know the answer to that.
And then my other question was, I see that we're doing surveys for the parents on the virtual, which I think that is fantastic, but I wanted to see if we're doing that for our teachers as well, because I'd like to get feedback from them on how it's working, what we can do to improve that process.
Yeah, that was
that on there too?
that
Did I
was
miss
the
that?
last one, the virtual staff. So yes,
Okay.
we are. Yeah.
Thanks.
So we absolutely want to find out that information too, Ms. Cox.
Are there any additional questions, Ms. President?
So I have a great deal of concern for our counselors as we approach the 9 weeks and students having the opportunity to change their paths. I realize how stressful it was at the beginning of the school year for our counselors to build a master schedule in no time, and then to try their very best to plug students into that. Are we going to be able to accomplish 20% of our kids coming back or more at the 9 weeks?
Yeah, I think first off, I appreciate that because we have the same concern. We discussed even the wording that we would send out to parents to make sure they understand that the information that our counselors might have 3 weeks before, so we know some parents are going to want to reach out to our counselors before they ever even make the commitment to change, to say, well, can you tell me what Johnny's schedule will be? Well, there's too many unknowns until we see the number of students that make that shift, which will then determine the number of teachers that we would have to make that shift. So we have the same great concern about that. Now, trying to get launched for the start of school, August 19, we hired some retired teachers. We'll do that again to work that 3-week period a couple of weeks before then. But it's going to be stressful. And, we're going to have to make sure, and we'll do everything we can to communicate out that it's highly probable that a parent might have to change their kid's schedule or their teacher as they're moving one direction or the other. Now, that's pretty common anyway, but if they think everything's going to be exactly the same, I can't promise that. It's just according to the numbers. And so I think that's absolutely right, Ms. Prosnick.
Are there any additional questions?
I just want to, on the surveys, because we tend to have a lot of people that watch our meetings, I'm absolutely certain parents are going to be very honest with us, but I want to really encourage teachers to use this as an opportunity. Often there's apprehension to fill out surveys, and here's what I would say. If you care about kids, fill out these surveys. So if you have good things to say and recommendations, put them in the surveys. If you have constructive input, put them in the surveys, but do not ignore the opportunity to provide us the input that we need to make the best decision long term. And when I say we, I'm talking about all of us, Dr. Rapp, Dr. Thornhill, Brian, everybody. So it just cannot emphasize enough that we should have 3,500 responses. I would hope. Well, not everybody's teaching virtual. Whatever that is, whatever that number is, hopefully everybody that's teaching virtual will respond. I'm sure every parent that's doing virtual will respond. So thank you.
Well, and I think you're absolutely, if we didn't want their input, we wouldn't have created the survey. And we genuinely want their honest input. And, so we'll go from there.
Ms. Hassan or Ms. Hassett, I don't believe have any questions. My question, this probably is a question maybe for Ms. Brim. That survey will go out this week, Wednesday, and how long is that period of time to complete?
Like usually 1 week.
1 week. Will we, and this was on my first survey, will we send a reminder like the day before? It is very appreciated. And I think that it was appreciated last time, I hope. And I hope that it's a reminder because just as all of us, we see something and we think we'll get back to it, and then COVID life is happening. So
we're actually going to send it out kind of in a two-prong approach. We think that if it comes from the teachers first to encourage parents to respond, that will get a good wave of responses. And then at the district level, we're going to send it back out and say, hey, you got this information from your teacher. If you haven't had a chance to fill it out yet, please take a moment and do that. And we just feel like having it come from the teachers is a good strategy, that parents may be more likely to pay attention to that because now they're in that communication loop with their teachers. So we're going to try that and see if that helps with our response level.
thank you. Go ahead.
Brim, and how will we push it out to staff? Yeah. Will it come from their campus principal, or will it come from the district for staff?
For virtual teachers.
For virtual teachers.
That one I think is we're just planning on from the district level.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Rogers, for the COVID update. And I echo Mr. Miller's sentiment. When we send out a survey for a district, from the district, or the district sends out a survey, it actually makes our job as trustees much easier if we actually know how you feel and the responses that you get are shared with us then. And without those responses and without those concerns, it's almost like we're moving forward blind in some ways. And so we truly, truly, please fill out the surveys and please get them back to us. We would appreciate it. So thank you, Dr. Rogers. There will be no recognitions of students tonight. at this board meeting, and also persons desiring to address the Board of Trustees were given the opportunity to fill out a speaker's card, and there were no speaker cards filled out. So we will move on in the agenda to consent items. Would someone like to make a motion, or would you like to pull an item for separate consideration? Ms. Hassett?
I'd like to pull an item for separate consideration.
Okay.
Item I-1A. That's an I, right? Is that an I?
Yes, these are all I. I-1A.
I-1A.
And that is RFP F1003D-17?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that the only one that you'd like
Yes, ma'am.
pulled? Anyone else? All right. Would someone like to make a motion? And I'll actually let you make the motion.
I'll go ahead and make that motion. if you'd
Okay,
like.
thank you, Ms. Hassett.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda items as recommended by administration, with the exception of item I-1A, pulled for separate consideration.
Okay. Do I have a second, Ms. Cox? Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, Ms. Hassett, would you like to make your motion on item I-1A, and then we'll get a second, and then we'll have discussion, and I'll let you speak to that.
Yes. I move that the board approve item I-1A, consider approval of RFP F1003D-17, Professional Development Consultants Services and Materials, ADSY, additional days school year.
Okay, and would I have a second? Mr. Miller, thank you. Would you like to speak to that motion, Ms. Hassett?
Yes, I just wanted Dr. Rogers to give a little recap, just to make sure that people are aware of what this is for and which schools it's for.
Thank you, Ms. Hassett, for the opportunity. I'm gonna punt that to Dr. Rapp, because I know she can do a whole lot better job than I can. I can tell you the schools. I mean, that's not a problem, but
So the additional school years grant is basically the opportunity to explore adding an additional 30 days to the school calendar. The two schools that are under consideration for this are Lewisville Elementary and Rockbrook Elementary. The timeline associated with this work is essentially we would utilize what is fast becoming October, the rest of September and October, to do stakeholder engagement, form the steering committees, really get a lot of input about this idea on additional school days, create a proposed master calendar with that work, and then ultimately come back to all of you in November to talk about what that work yielded and what the recommendations are before it's time to possibly look at submitting the strategic plan, which would be due to TEA in December. So there's plenty of time between now and that to have plenty of conversations with you all. I know you asked at the work session as well for regular updates on this work also. Any implementation of this would not happen until June of 2021 at the soonest. The spring would really, depending on where the plan goes, you would look at implementing the plan as you prepare for the following school year. But lots of research before any of that would happen.
And the stakeholder engagement you just said includes parents and
Yes,
teachers.
thank you so much. The stakeholder engagement includes lots of meetings with parents, teachers, students are part of the stakeholder engagement as well to get their feedback on this type of experience and what they would be interested in and would they be interested in that. And so plenty of community focus group. Several steering committees have to be formed as a result of this work as well. Yes.
Okay, does anyone else have questions? Ms. Prosnick?
So could you explain what the consultants do in this process? Because that is truly what this action item is for. So could you explain what the consultants are doing? Because, I mean, we can hold a stakeholder meeting, but what exactly will the consultants be doing in this process?
Yes, so these are consultants that have gone through a TEA-approved process that have experience in leading design and implementation work for specialized projects, specifically regarding school transformation, school improvement, things of that nature. And so they specifically help us with the strategic planning components, with convening those stakeholder groups, because they do this in so many different places. I know I provided provided resources about where all they have worked before. And so they really have good processes for how do you get the community engaged in new and different ways that we may not always think about, because these are two unique communities that may not be able to engage in the traditional methods that we're used to using. And so they would simply be helping us focus on how do you develop that strategic plan, gathering that input, utilizing their frameworks that they know have worked in other places as well. Sure.
Okay. If nothing else, would you do me a favor and could you explain the grant process for those that are listening, and the fact that this actually is not something that we are taking a hit on our budget on, that through the expertise of our staff, that they have written a grant and we have received a grant for this process, and I think that that might be helpful to those listening.
Absolutely. So TEA made available to districts a competitive grant process last spring, right around the time that we were in COVID. And so we submitted an application for that grant. We're awarded the grant. It's $200,000 total. So the grant pays for the project manager's salary along with the required design and implementation work. So there's no expenditure of local funds in order to conduct this research and partner with this consultant.
Thank you, and thank you to those staff that wrote that grant. We appreciate that. Is there any additional questions? If not, let's vote. If you could raise your hand or say aye, and that carries 6-0. Thank you. Moving on to information items. Dr. Rapp?
I'm pleased to welcome to the standing microphone, not a podium, Ms. Cuckler. Oh, yes, she was going to borrow this little podium here. Ms. Cuckler and Ms. McDonald to provide for you our annual external PE report.
Oh, yeah. Is it on? Perfect. Can you hear me? Well, good evening, Dr. Rogers and school board members. Thank you so much for having us here tonight. Just a quick update on our external PE. Again, we feel like external PE is a real champion for LISD's 4 cornerstones, and we support all 4 of them with what we do with our students. Our traditional methods this past spring of communicating to parents about PE and registration got a little put on the back burner due to COVID, of course. But what came from that was really the opportunity to work closely with our facilities and our coaches to provide communication to our parents that way. So we did have a positive outcome from that and have a great plan for this winter and spring to use that process to get more parents involved earlier.
Okay, and here's our breakdown of participation by sport. So as you can see, dance and gymnastics still make up over half of our external PE students. And this past year, we were able to add another activity, synchronized swimming, to the choices. In addition to these activities listed above, we had 1 to 2 students participating in softball and wrestling at the middle school level and rowing at the high school level. And then in this chart, we have our totals. The participation numbers are holding level, with last year's participation increasing by about 5%. The majority of students participating are at the middle school level, totaling 411, and high school participation was at 129, giving a total of 540 students for the year.
And again, we had the great privilege to partner with 145 facilities, 200 coaches, and to have our students in 30 local communities. And again, COVID gave us a great opportunity to really partner closely with these coaches to keep all of our families engaged during the spring. Do y'all have any questions for us?
Ms. Prosnick?
So I love external PE.
We do too.
I'm a fan. But I will ask, how is the monitoring working now in COVID?
So I just started back this past week. My facilities are open, and so we're just going as usual.
So is if the facilities are open, I guess that was more my question. If all the facilities were open that were housing the students.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're up and going.
Well done.
Any additional questions? Thank you all so
Thank
much.
y'all so much.
Thank you. Yeah. And moving on to discussion items, Mr. Youngs?
Evening, board members. On page 127 of your board book, you'll find the introduction to the financial report for the month. You'll notice in the third bullet down that a summary of the monthly investment report is included rather than the 20, 30-page document. If you're interested in that, I'll be happy to send it to you. If you turn now with me to page 128, you have the summary of the major funds. General fund, I'd like to draw your attention to the second column from the right. This is revenue and expenditures. So in the general fund through the end of July, we've had $475 million in revenue, and we spent $441, leaving a surplus of $33 million. That's not where we're going to end up, of course. This isn't the end of August yet. Next down is the child nutrition fund that shows an excess of $300,000, and near the bottom is the debt service fund that shows an excess of $131 million. The excess is there because we haven't made the August payment yet. That's why there seems to be so much money there in the debt service fund. And the August payment was $130 million, so that spent most of that. Then I'd like to draw your attention finally to page 137. You can see that our cash portfolio was earning less than 0.25%, 0.21%. 6-month Treasury bills are earning 0.14%. Our goal is to earn more than the Treasury bill, and we are, but just barely. Interest rates are very low, and we're earning very low yields on our cash portfolio, and that concludes the report for the month.
Does anyone have any questions? No questions? No? Mr. Miller?
Where does the money sit on from the bond sale this summer?
Investment pools.
Okay. So it wouldn't show up in the debt service fund. It would show up in more kind of a concept of a
in our
balance
cash
sheet.
balances.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Moving on, we'll go on to action items. Dr. Rapp?
Yes, so I did include in your board book this time, I believe it was Mr. Miller that asked for it, just the brief executive summary about the district improvement plan. It was just items that I had shared last month as well. And so, appreciate the support and study of the district improvement plan as always, and would be happy to answer any further questions that there may be.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Rapp? Ms. Hassett?
I know you already answered my question. I'm going to ask it again. Okay. For the Goal 1, Performance Objective 1, Strategy 1, about the content walks and alignments, our goal is 80%. I don't think the document actually says we said it was only for in-person classroom walks, because I was wondering how we would do that virtually. I think it would be more helpful to state that in the DIP, that it's for classroom walks. And since we hit 77% last year, 80% just seems a little bit lower. I mean, couldn't we stretch a goal to a little bit more than 80%? If we had, last year we also had hit the learning target evidence of 84.7. What's the difference between the learning target evidence and then the alignment walk? Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Basically, last year when we wrote the goal, we did not include a target we reported out on the data in form of targets, but we didn't include a target. So that's the difference between this year and last year, is now we're actually including the target, because last year was really some baseline data in terms of some changes we made. Now, a couple of things about the walkthroughs. While this is about the content alignment would be in-person walks, we do expect our campus principals I think it's important to note, to walk all classrooms, whether it's virtual or in person. Those are just not always going to be content alignment walks. So just want to be sure and provide that clarification. Last year's data in January, the learning target was evident to students. That's one percentage. That was 84.7. And then 84% were engaged in learning content that was aligned to that learning target. So you can have a learning target on the board, but what you're actually asking the students to do may not be in complete alignment with what the learning target says. So that's the conversation that you're having as you're walking those classrooms, is does what you're giving the students to do match what the learning target is in the classroom? And then 81% was the cognitive demand. So that's looking at the actual activity itself and saying, does it get to the level that's truly expected in the TEKS for that grade level? So the difference then, to sum up, would be this year we're actually including the percentage in the target goal. Okay?
Then my follow-up question to that
Yes, ma'am.
is, what do we do when there wasn't alignment? What's the process that happens?
Yeah, so one of the changes that we made, and this actually stems back to a conversation with Ms. Prosnick a couple of years ago, was we started walking with the campus principal as we were doing the content alignment walks. So to help continue that ongoing dialogue with them right there in the moment. And of course, Ms. Gall is sitting back there as well and is part of that process. And so it's not the learning and teaching team walking separately, which is how that was originally birthed, if you will, or designed. So now with the principal or the AP there's immediate discussion about how could this have been better, what could we have done to make the alignment be better, and you're not having that conversation after the moment has passed or the principal wasn't there to be part of it.
Ms. Cox?
Just to follow up on Ms. Hassett's question, so this district improvement plan includes virtual as well, correct?
Yes, there are definitely strategies in this district improvement plan that include our implementation of virtual and other things that we're having to do in light of COVID.
Okay, so with that, I see that you're a lot very conservative on the numbers of the increase. So how comfortable or confident are you feeling with this year, kind of a learning curve as we're working with the virtual students achieving our goals?
Well, I think one of the questions I know that Ms. Hassett had was about progress monitoring with our students that are in the virtual program. And so, of course, at elementary, we plan on administering all those same assessments that our in-person learners are going to take. And there will have to be some analysis there of how are our virtual learners doing compared to our in-person, and vice versa, obviously. At secondary, we do have performance tasks created to give to both in-person and virtual learners. We have put that on hold just a little bit as we've watched the learning curve for our virtual staff and our virtual learners while they're adjusting to a different way of learning. But we do plan on administering assessments so that we can see how both students are doing.
Ms. Prosnick?
Will there be any delineation between the virtual and the in-person when we see that data for the schools? Or will it just be for that school?
I mean, that's not something Dr. Fitzhugh and I've gotten to talk much about, and I know I have to have her help so much in disaggregating that data. But I do think we will have to have it disaggregated by virtual and in-person. So we just haven't really narrowed down how often will we disaggregate it in that way, depending on the data, the source, and all of those kinds of things.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you for putting this in, Dr. Rapp, the summary. So I just want to offer a perspective of how this conversation is going to change a little bit after our governance audit's done. There'll be much more of a confluence of very specific goals and measurable accomplishments where we probably have not been as strong as other districts in putting measurable goals in our objectives for the superintendent and the board. And so I just know that you'll see a confluence of us looking at things like the DIP as inputs into the board goals and then other goals that fall from that as we complete that in mid October. We'll see a first preview of that probably around the 5th or 9th of August or October, somewhere around there, and then it'll be complete mid October. I just want to mention that because there, a lot of times we've done goals independently, district improvement plans, campus improvement plans, et cetera. The real objective will be to align those more to where the board has goals that are measurable, and they're within the other instruments that the district is using to measure success all the way down to the campus level, and I would assume then, to some level, classroom or teacher performance.
Any other comments? And just because of Mrs. Cox's question, there will be consideration for those students because we are not, and I appreciate our district, and I'll tell that to Dr. Rogers, that I appreciate our district being able to give parents ownership of choosing at the end of the 9 weeks, unlike other neighboring districts where you had to choose for the entire year for their students. But when we're differentiating those things, how will we identify, those certain walkthroughs will be of the virtual teacher, but also those students, and if we have to shift teachers and stuff, I hope that that's all taken into consideration, and that was my only comment. And I'm sure it will be. I just wanted to make that statement. So, thank you. Okay. All right. Now, moving on, Dr. Rogers. Oh, wait, we got to make a motion on it. I am really off when I made that comment.
I'll make the motion, Ms.
Yes,
Sells.
thank you.
I move that the board approve the 2021 District Improvement Plan as presented by administration.
Perfect. Do we have a second? Is Mrs. Prosnick. All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye. And the motion carries 6-0. All right, now moving on to Dr. Rogers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sells, and I will just tell you regarding the DIP that it's going to be a interesting puzzle, but if I had to pick two people to figure out the puzzle, Dr. Fitzhugh and Dr. Rapp would be it. So I feel comfortable with that. I wanted to talk just briefly about TASB Policy Update 115. I'm hoping this is the first and last time I have to do this, but anyway, of course, as the board knows, particularly after legislative sessions, there's a lot of legal policy that gets pushed down. That's statutory, nothing really for the board to take action on. Then TASB Policy Department makes recommendations on local policies. That's what the board does have the right to adopt. And so after really closely looking at it by a leadership team, we just would recommend that you adopt TASB Update 115 local, except for policy DED, which is compensation benefits. It's the vacations and holiday. Y'all did a lot of extensive work on that like a little over a year ago. It didn't really make sense to modify that greatly. And then policy EI, which is about achievement, and that really has to do with because we're pretty unique in the type of schedule we run in our high schools with accelerated block. We just didn't feel like it made sense to change that. Really, while there's a lot of great policy changes, DIA local and FFH local, having to do with Title IX, both for staff and for students. There's been some massive changes with Title IX. I appreciate Ms. Smith, Mr. Kaj, who are Title IX folks for staff and students, have already begun massive training. We'll continue to do that because there's a lot to do. And it's very sweeping changes in a lot of different ways. But I would certainly try to answer whatever questions you might have, but certainly recommend that you approve TASB Board Policy Update 115 local with the exceptions of DED local and EI local.
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Rogers? Not that he wants them, but
I do. I'm sorry, I should have
Mr.
probably
Miller, you're
asked this earlier, but just curious as you were talking about that, because one of the things in the administrative recommendations was that these would be updated in the employee manual. From a logistics perspective, does that happen like in a PDF by the end of the week after we vote, or how quickly does that become available to employees? And is there some trigger that, for whatever reason, announces that these are, have been changed?
Yeah, Mr. Miller, that was DMD local that we would add to the employee handbook, and that was because TASB was recommending striking DMD local, period, and so we felt like that really makes sense to move that to administrative, so we would add that, and that would be something that Ms. Smith would take care of. But it's really a pretty easy process as far as moving it to administrative policy, and so and it's really that policy in particular, which is probably why it's being struck, isn't that big of a deal. So,
are there any other questions for Dr. Rogers? All right. Can somebody make a motion, please?
I'll go ahead,
That's it.
I move that the board approve the policy revisions provided in the TASB Board Policy Update 115 local, with the exception of DED local and EI local, as recommended by administration.
Ms. Cox, would second? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye, and the motion carries 6-0. If there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and the time is now 8:07 p.m. Please be safe going home.
thank you all very much. I think